Good evening. This is Sherry Joy Collier, Inside Art and Inspiration for Christian Women. This is the Pages of Peace Art Journaling Workshop. And the whole point to this particular workshop is to relax, to have fun, to paint in our art journals. I'm going to hold up my mixed media pad for you to see here. This is the mixed media pad that is by Canson. I'll show you the front cover if I can. And so this is a 9x12. They have different sizes. So if you want to do yours in a smaller one, you're absolutely able to do it in a smaller one. I'm going to use acrylic paints. Tonight I'm going to use heavy body paints, the paints in the tube. But you can use craft paints like I did last week. And if you didn't hear or see last week's video, it's still in this group. The replay will be here for another 3 weeks, and then Facebook takes them down after 30 days. So be sure and watch any of the previous ones if you want to get kind of more of a foundational grasp of this particular process to art journaling. So before I get started in earnest, I want to get my laptop up and running. That way I can interact with whoever would like to. If you're live, let's get this turned off. Okay, hold on 1 second. I got to turn the volume off again. Okay, so yes, if you're watching live, say hello. Tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to hear a little bit about where you're coming from. I'm in East Tennessee, and I wanted to just kind of briefly cover what this is all about. So this form of art journaling is really about taking things that are coming up in our emotions and shifting them with the power of God's word. So I'm going to give an example. So this week, I had some days where I felt really shaken. And I used that word on purpose. Not only was I shaken, I was rattled and nervous and a little bit on edge. Several reasons. My husband is still getting over an infection that is a kind of a bad infection. And then that huge earthquake that happened in Russia. And we're from Southern California. And so we have a ton of family and friends in the San Diego, Oceanside, kind of all those areas right on the coast. And we had heard that California, in addition to Hawaii and other places, was having a tsunami warning. So I was feeling a little rattled, a little bit shaken. And between my husband's illness and all the stuff going on in the world, I don't know about you, but it can get to be a bit much. And unless you're like really super good at just immediately turning your thoughts to Christ, which I try to do that, and sometimes I just forget, and I'm not perfect at all. Unless you're just really focused in on Christ, it's super easy to get nervous and shaken at everything going on around. So what I did to prepare for tonight's art journaling page is I pulled out 2 verses that kind of speak to this. So the first verse is found in Isaiah 26:3, and it says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." This verse emphasizes how steadfast trust in God leads to inner peace. So then we have John 14:27. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." So these are the 2 verses that are inspiring tonight's art journaling page. So I was thinking about this, and I kind of already came up with, okay, if I want to do, so I found some words. So I went in and I looked up, so there's words like how I was feeling. I was feeling rattled, shaken, unnerved. And I went and I looked up some opposite words. So some opposite words are, where did they go? Tranquil, balanced, and at peace. So that is what I was kind of thinking about. Tranquil, balanced, at peace. When I was thinking about, okay, what colors do I want to incorporate in this particular art journaling page to convey that tranquility, that peace. And kind of immediately, I just thought of a very beautiful landscape with maybe some green grass type stuff on the ground and a river kind of curving through, maybe some mountains in the background. So I'm going to do a very quick, relaxed, simple landscape tonight. And that's what art journaling is all about. It is not about making a gallery-worthy painting. It is about expressing, and it's about conveying a message back to yourself and to the Lord. So this is, I'm going to turn the camera down so you can see and paint along if you'd like. So let me show you up close. I went ahead and took a pencil, and I just kind of threw in some mountains and a very simple river and some simple trees. I don't know if those trees will remain in here or not. And I'm just going to be very intuitive about this. So I have not planned out the colors too much, but I do know that I want to have a very peaceful and serene sky. So I think I'm going to start. Let's pull out, I'm going to pull out some blues and some whites. So I'm going to start with some deep cyan blue and just put a little bit on my plate. You can see I've been using this plate over and over. The acrylics that I use, they dry, and so you can just put paint right over the top of them and it's not a problem. I'm going to add a little pinch of this cerulean blue too, which is a completely different tint of blue. And then I'm going to put a lot of white, and I'm going to start with my sky. That way it'll just kind of set the tone for me. So I'm going to get a good bit of white on my plate because I use white a lot. So if you're watching and you're able to comment, I hope you can comment. Okay, I hope I didn't turn comments off by accident. Anyway, if you're here and you'd like to comment, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you're watching the replay later, just comment and say replay, and that way I'll know how many people are watching the replay versus live. So yeah, hopefully, if for some reason you're trying to comment and you can't, please private message me later and let me know. That way I can fix it. So I'm just starting with a very laid back sky, just really kind of keeping this a very light blue, trying to. And I'm going to go ahead and come right up to the edge of the mountains. So let's pull that blue color right down to the very, very edge. And I'm just kind of keeping my brush strokes going different directions just to kind of give like an atmospheric sky. I don't want like just solid blue. So I'm adding more white here too. And I'm just kind of swish, swash back and forth with my brush. Like I said, that just kind of gives it a little bit of a atmospheric feel to it. And boy, I am really blowing through my white here tonight. I thought I had put enough on my palette plate, but I'm gonna have to get more, I think. So let's get this out here. And skies are these beautiful kind of light blue with kind of these atmospheric wisps in it. They always speak peace and tranquility to me. So you, if you want to come up with your own painting, or you can use whatever medium you have on hand. It doesn't even have to be a painting. You know what, while I've got this color out, I'm gonna go ahead and put the river in. Why not, right? And we'll be doing other stuff to this river, adding more different blues. So I'm just gonna kind of get some blues on here just so that my eye knows where the river is. And I'm just gonna mix that all up with the lighter tones over here. Like I said, this is just layer number 1, and I'm adding a good bit of water to my brush. But anyways, the blue skies always just speak peace to me right away. And not only that, the ocean is another. Well, really, any body of water, but I really love the ocean. Any body of water, though, is just immediately soothing to me. And then, of course, the greens of like the fields and the grasses. And that's all going to be up to you. You know, it's going to be very individual to you as to what you find peaceful. And today you may have colors come to mind that represent peace and tranquility to you that may be different from tomorrow. We're different, you know, like every day things kind of change in terms of our own symbolism. By symbolism, I mean just like what colors speak to us on any given day, what colors say peace, what colors say joy, what colors express humor. So one day, these colors, these very soothing colors of blues and greens may express peace for me, but who knows, tomorrow, instead of this scene, it might be like just a simple leaf, a painting of one simple leaf. I thought about doing that too. I love painting leaves, plural. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep dipping my brush in the water to thin that paint, and that way I don't have to add more paint to my paint palette just yet, because I'm just wanting to get this river on here, like I said, to give my eye something to hold the spot for the river. And I'm just gonna let that kind of fade back there. All right, let's see, maybe just a hint more right here. And I'm gonna curve that a little bit more. Just pull that up. So let's see. The other thing I was gonna tell you is when you're thinking about kind of imagery that expresses different feeling states to you, you might really find that you're inspired by things that you grew up with too. I've had several different places. I was born in Michigan. Well, hi Paulette. Nice to see you here. How are you tonight? So I was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and was there till I was about 10 years old. And then we moved to Arizona, so the desert, so very different. And I really find beauty in many different landscapes now. And then we moved to San Diego, so that was also very, very different from Arizona, but very different from Michigan as well. Okay, I think I'm gonna dip into this purple. I am just feeling like I want to try my mountains in purple for some reason. And this may change. I may decide that I don't like the purple, but purple is just kind of, now that I live in Tennessee, I think, purple just is expressive of some of the Smoky Mountain aspects that we have here in East Tennessee. Okay, I think I'm gonna just start with that amount, just a very little amount. And I'm gonna get a little white and I'm just gonna mix that purple in with that white. And let's put a nice lavender colored mountain back here. And like I said, this may change just a little bit, but these art journaling pages are expressive. They are not realistic unless you want them to be. If you want them to be realistic, then by all means you can make them realistic. But for me tonight, I really wanted to keep them expressive. So I'm kind of going with some colors that might not be very realistic. So that's a start. I'm going to add a little bit more white to this mountain because I want it to almost fade into the background. So let's just get a little bit of a fading into the background situation going on here. And this is just fun and relaxing when you give yourself permission to play. Especially, I've been painting some florals, and I took a floral painting that I did to canvas, and I've been working on that for several days, and it's something that, you know, because I'm going to be selling it at some point, I'm being very careful about how I'm painting. So it's so refreshing to get into the art journal and paint in a way that's playful, very, very playful. So let's put this dark purple on this mountain. And let's just get, I'm just gonna go straight into this dark purple. And let's just really pull that mountain right up here. I'm gonna get my brush a little bit wet just to make it glide a little bit easier. Little dip in the water again here. And let's get this mountain filled in. I do have a tree kind of poking up right there, so I'm not gonna fill in everything. I'm just gonna kind of punch in some purple like that because my tree is gonna be billowing around that. Okay, so there's that dark purple. Let's pull that right down, kind of over here. And I have some littler hills right here that I might go ahead and do in a little bit of a different color. So I'm gonna leave, let's get these hills a little bit more smooth. Smooth those right out. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that like that for now. I might put a little kiss of white just right there, just to kind of give a little indication that the light is kind of hitting that mountain in a few places. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and shift and put some, I'm gonna get some green going. So I like to try to make my green using yellow and black. So I'm gonna get some yellow. Let's put a little fresh squirt of yellow. And this is called cadmium yellow, medium. And then I have just some it's called lamp black. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of black right there. And let's see if we can't get some mixing going on here. So I don't really have to wash all the purple out, but I'm gonna rinse most of it, I think. Let's take a glop of this yellow. Well, no, let's take a little tiny bit of the black and let's pull some yellow and let's just start with a little bit. And I'm gonna get a nice dark green at first. And that's way too dark, so I'm gonna add a lot more yellow. And that's still pretty dark, so I'm gonna even go with more of that yellow. And I'm gonna kind of see how that looks. That's very dark green. So I may end up changing that or lightening that a bit. But I'm gonna fill it in for now. Like I said, it'll kind of give my eye a little bit of a marker. And then let's grab a bunch of this white and let's put that white right in there. And I'm just gonna kind of start coming up here and popping in some greenery. And I'm gonna even lighten that up even more. So I'm going kind of around my tree. I'm gonna make that tree a different green so that it stands out. In fact, I'm not gonna keep that tree. I don't think I'm gonna put that tree there at all. So I'm just trying to get the paint out of my brush. And then I'm gonna get back in here and get some of this lighter green going. Just kind of pull it right up here. And I'm debating tonight, I may or may not write the verse right on this page. Sometimes I do, I like to write the verse right in the art journaling page. That way when I'm going through it later, I can read the verse that I've got connected with this particular painting. But I'm not sure tonight if that's what I'm going to be doing, so we'll see. So I'm just going to kind of pull this green back up here. I'm kind of covering over my tree here a little bit too, but I can pop that back in if I want to. And I need to just get right up here. Okay, now I'm definitely going to be adding more white. So let's come in here and I'm grabbing up some of that yellow that was left over. And let's see, I'm going to lighten up some of this area. And I'm not going to hit every single area. I'm just going to kind of pull that lighter tone in here and there, kind of leaving it blotchy, I guess is a good word. And the reason I want to leave it a little blotchy is because I want to, you know, when you look out over a field of grass, it's not all one solid color of green. It's different colors of green in there. So that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, I just want to get this white covered, the kind of the edge of the page here, and then I've still got all this territory I've got to cover. So I'm going to kind of leave this tree. I kind of like having that tree there, so I'm going to try to paint right around that tree. let's get, oops, I just painted right over it, the trunk of it. Anyway, that's okay. The beautiful thing about acrylics is it's actually better to layer. When you paint in layers, it just gives it a richer colors, and the layering effect lets the different colors of paint kind of shine through, like the bottom layer will kind of shine through and through the top layers, and it gives it different looks. So I don't think I'm probably explaining that very well, but I'm just going to smoothly pull in with some water on my brush. I'm just kind of trying to get right up there next to that river. Okay, and then I kind of want to take a look and see what I want to do. I want to add a little bit more yellow. So let's get a little more yellow in here. Okay, so I'm going to take a nice big chunk of this yellow and mix it in with what I had here before and just change that up to much more yellow color than this. And I'm going to kind of pop it in a few places, but not everywhere. So let's pop that in, and let's see how I like that. Just going to kind of smoosh it in a few places, and I'm going to need a little bit more white. I definitely go through lots and lots of white. Lots of it. All right, so we'll get some white. And I'm gonna mix that right in over here. Okay, and again, I'm just gonna kind of swash it in. And I might let it come right up by the river in a few places and just kind of lighten. Oops. Just breaking up some of the color. Ooh, that got really light there. I'm just going to pull some green back onto that. And I'm going to let this kind of be lighter up here. And then let's see if I can't just cover a little bit of that tree. And I'll probably do a completely different color for the tree. Different green altogether. In fact, let's mix that green right now. Let's mix a nice dark green for those trees. So let's see if I can't get that nice and dark. Not too dark though. That's the trick. But the reason that I sometimes like this better than out of the tube is because it's a little bit more natural than some of the greens that we get in the tube. All right, so we'll kind of dot that in there. And then let's dot in some lighter white. So there's just kind of a very rough little tree right there. And we'll get this little guy going. Let's pull in the dark green and just really fill that in. This tree has a little bit bigger shape going. It's closer up here to the front. Kind of where I'm headed with that. And then I've got this black, so I'm just going to pull a trunk in with black. And I may even just kind of branch up a few branches into there. Let's pull a nice little trunk in right here. And same thing, I'm just going to kind of pull some hints, just hinting that there's branches in and around that one. All right, I'm going to just rinse my brush out of that excess black, and I'm going to go back in to my green, and I'm going to kind of dot over some of those really stark black branches that I just put on there. And let's do a little bit of lightness up here, dotting that in on this tree in a few places. This is also, being acrylics, this is going to dry darker than you think. So later, I'm sure I'll probably want to come back and lighten some things up. Okay, I'm going to pull some green in around the base of this tree that's kind of just giving it a little sense of a hill. And then I want to kind of just step back and see, where do I want to go next? I think I would like to deal with the blue. All right, and so I'm not sure, but I kind of feel like I want to tone it down, and I may even put just a little dribble of brown, just the tiniest smidge. Let's see if I can get the lid back on this thing. This is burnt umber. So I'm gonna do a little bit of this blue from over on the other plate. I think this was the cerulean blue. Actually, I'm running out of room to mix, so I'm gonna switch back to this plate, and I'm gonna pull this blue and some white in, and I'm gonna mix that, and I'm gonna get it a good deal lighter, and I'm just gonna take the tiniest hint. See that teeny tiny hint of that burnt umber, and just tone that down. So let's come in here and just kind of tone this river down. And I don't have to cover it perfectly. And it might kind of, in some places, it might be kind of reflecting the sky. And in other places, it might not. It might not be reflecting the sky. There's all these different shades of blue in the rivers, too. So let's pull that up here. And I'm just, as you can see, I'm being pretty messy about it. And the whole time I'm painting this, I'm just trying to remind myself that I don't have to be shaken, even when the world is literally shaken, that I have my Father in heaven, I have the Holy Spirit, I am saved by the blood of Jesus, so therefore I am his child, therefore nothing can occur outside of his permission, and therefore everything that occurs in my life will be for my benefit. And that benefit may be growing in my character. It may be, there's all kinds of spiritual benefits that we get right away here on earth. I'm going to leave that the way it is for now, and I may come up and I may do something different with these mountains just a little bit. I kind of want to see what happens if I take a little bit of this brown umber and mix it with that purple that's still on my plate. And then, do I have any white left? Yes, I do have some white left. That's kind of a really pretty, it's a pretty muddy color, actually. See that? And I'm just gonna kind of pull that just to kind of tone down that purple a little bit. Little bit muddy. There, okay. And then I think I'm gonna have to pull out some more purple because I want this to be darker than that, and I've run out of purple on my plate. So let's do that. Let's get just, oh goodness. More comes out than I need sometimes. Okay, so let's get what's on my brush and let's mix it with this dark purple and get this mountain up in front to have a little bit of that burnt umber effect going, but have it be darker. Oh, that's pretty dark, actually. Let's see if we can't lighten that up. So I've got to come over to where my white is. Okay, let's see if we can't just... All right, I'm going to pull that across here and over around this tree. So that's really toned down the purple. It's not so purple anymore, and I need white. More white. Give me white. Let's get some more white on the old plate. Okay, so let's see. I just wanted to kind of feather in, maybe hit these mountains on the tops, just in a few places with a lighter color, just to kind of catch the, oops, I have green on my brush now. Oops, didn't really mean for that to happen. Okay, so I'm just kind of hitting the tops here with a little bit of a lighter shade in a few places. Whoops, got my sky. See how messy we can be? Messy, messy. Okay, I'm going to leave that to dry, and I'm going to go back to my sky. I'm kind of tempted to pull in some sunset kind of colors. Let's see, do I want to do that? I don't know. I do know I'm going to pull out a different green, and this is a very bright green. This is sap green. And while I've got my brush kind of muddy already, I might just try to hit these trees with a little bit of that, just to make them stand out. Boy, that really brightened that tree up quite a bit. So we'll do the same thing up here. We'll just brighten this tree. Make it pop. So you might not see a tree like this in nature, but by goodness, you're gonna see it in my art journal. All right, let's grab a little white. And I'm gonna just dab some white in here. Like the sunlight's kind of kissing some of these leaves. Just catching a few glints of sunlight there. Let's do a little tiny bit over here. And then I want to come back and cover my sky a little bit more. I'm going to just go right into this blue plate that I had going before and just kind of reactivate with some water. Right there. There. I want to just, whoops, that's really bright. Alrighty, we did not want that to be that bright. All right. So I'm just going to pull that color in a little few places. Let's cover that purple right there. And then I'll grab a hint of white and just come right over that. And let's just see if we can't. You know, without looking at a photo, I have no idea which way the ripples would be going in this river. No clue. I'd actually have to look at a photo to remember. So I'm just kind of hinting at some variations in the water here and hoping that it just kind of gives a little sense of things. Let's see. Do I want to do a little sunset action? Part of me does, part of me doesn't. I think instead of focusing on a sunset, I think I'm going to actually turn my attention to this tree here. It's not standing out very much. And I think I'm going to pull some really light colors in and just really pop that out up against that mountain. Okay, and I'm going to add some of that same color here too. And let's see if that makes me feel a little bit better about my trees. I know what I do want to do for sure. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to take the same brush and just use the tip of it, and I'm going to come along and just in a few places put some white dots, and these white dots are going to become flowers. So I'm going to put different colors though over them. And as I get up close, some of the flowers are going to be a little bit bigger. But here I'm just dotting in literal tiny little dots. Tiny dots. And it's kind of like I'm imagining that the river would be nourishing everything along the side of the river, and therefore you'd probably get a lot of flowers. Let's dot a few little flowers around this tree as well. All right, so I'm just doing these little white dots because then I want to come over and I want to add color over top of it. And what color would I like to add? Let's see. How about we mix up a little bit of this alizarin crimson. Whoa, that was way too much. Not gonna need that much. And I'm gonna grab that white and I'm gonna pull it over here and I'm gonna mix just the tiniest bit of that alizarin crimson and get a pretty pink. And then we'll just kind of come over and see if we can dot a few of these in that light pink. And I'm going to go straight into the Alizarin Crimson and do just a few that are straight Alizarin Crimson. And now I'm kind of letting the Alizarin Crimson smush in to the white. Let's get just a little bit more Alizarin Crimson, and I'm just dotting it kind of on top of my white dots that I had put down. So just smushing a little bit of that in here and there. And if you do your own art journal page, I hope you will share it with me. I'd love to see a picture of what you paint for tranquility, peace, serenity, balance, the opposite of shaken, unnerved, rattled. Okay, so now that I've put that Alizarin Crimson in, I'm going to go back into that pink, and I'm going to add just a little floof of pink now in a few spots. So let's wipe that Alizarin Crimson off, and let's get that pink. So I'm just kind of coming over the top and putting that pink right over the top of these places where I have the Alizarin Crimson. Just kind of having a ball. And maybe there's even a few like just up the mountain. Just a few tiny in the distance, you know, just here and there. And then maybe even some yellow. Do I have any more yellow on my plate? I do not. I might add just a few dots of yellow. Because why not, right? Why not? Okay, so I'm gonna just use that same brush. Just take the tip of it and get into my yellow there. I don't know if that's going to show up very well without having white underneath it. Maybe I'll just put it right over some of these Alizarin ones in a few places. Yep, that's not showing up very well. Probably I need to put more white underneath. The white is opaque, and that helps the colors on top show up. But I'm going to leave that way for now. Now I've got this huge blob of Alizarin Crimson, and I'm kind of wondering, just since this is an art journal page, and since I can do, you know, fun stuff with this page, I might get a little bit of that pink and just kind of I don't know, wisp it in the sky. Just going over a few places with that mixture. And there's even some of that yellow that's on my brush that I may just kind of hint that there's something going on in the sky that has to do with a sunset. And I'm just trying to kiss it with a little color, really, is all I'm trying to do. And I'm out of white again. I keep running out of white. So I may need to stop. And let's hint at some color up here. And I'm just kind of taking my brush and just letting what's on kind of left over on my brush just kind of smoosh out onto the page here. And now that I've got this yellow and glycerin down here, I do want to just take a tiny bit of white, just a little bit. I'm going to try to really take just the tiniest bit. And of course, a huge blob comes out. Okay, let's get into this blue again. It probably won't be dry. Oh, maybe it will. Okay, just gonna get that really light blue, and I'm just gonna come in and put that back over some of these areas where I feel like maybe I had, you know, let too much color come into play. And I like that white. I kind of want to make this sky kind of more atmospheric, kind of like it's hazy, I guess, maybe. A little hazy. So I'm just adding little white, just kind of wisping some white over the top here. And then I don't know if you can see that sky very well, but that's kind of what it looks like now. And then I'm gonna come down to my river and see if I can't just even add some of that, the reflection into the river. So lightening that river up even just a little bit more. Boy, that's a lot of lightening up, isn't it? But I'm just kind of going with the flow, seeing what I can do with that leftover paint on my brush. And it matches the sky, so I might as well. Okay, let's see if we can't pull it up here too. This is a little bit too white. So I'm just gonna try to tone that down. Well, that didn't tone it down at all. Where'd my blue go? I think I must have used up the last of my blue. Well, anyways, I'm just gonna pull that in. Anyway, just the way it is. Just gonna soften that blue up on that edge of the river right there. And here too. Just kind of softening that edge. And I think having it be a little bit lighter is probably better. There, I found that blue that was on my plate. So I'm just gonna come in and just add some blue back in. Just kind of letting my brush just dance over it. Okay. I think I'm just going to stop there. And then let's think about where I could write the verse. So I would probably write, which verse? you will keep in perfect peace. That's a long, let's just do, let not your hearts be troubled. That little phrase right there. Right here, let me circle it. Let not your hearts be troubled. So I'm just gonna write, let not your hearts be troubled. And I think I'm gonna write it in white, right here, right on this dark patch of sky. And I'm not gonna write it right now because the paint, well, that's pretty dry. I have these paint markers, Art Owl, and they're a lot of fun to work with acrylic paints. So let's see, is that dry enough to rest my wrist? I think it is. So if I were to want to do this right now, I think I can get away with it. So let's see. We're gonna just go for it. Let not your hearts be troubled. And I'm just gonna put a parenthesis and a comma, and then we'll do a little dash. And this is John 14:27. Of course, it's not the full verse, but that's okay. 14:27. Now when I'm flipping through here, I will know exactly what verse I was trying to remind myself of. And there it is. Let not your hearts be troubled. So yeah, just have yourself some fun, some playtime, some time to relax, not too worried about the outcome, just something that you can flip back through later and remember the lesson from the Bible verse that calms and settles your heart. And I hope you enjoy this process. And like I said, if you do your own, I'd love to see a picture of it. If you can't post it in the group for some reason, you should be able to post it as a comment in the group right underneath here. But if for some reason you can't, send it to me private message and I'll post it for you. But I'm going to call it quits for tonight. Have yourself a wonderful evening. God bless you all. Thanks for watching.